Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Hobby Farm in the Heights. I'm Ruth. It has been forever since I posted a video. Sorry guys, life got super busy. Anyway, I am out in the garden today trying to get some work done. You can see behind me that the garden has really transformed from a spring garden to full-fledged summer garden, which makes me super excited. And look at this, look at this. If you come down in here, hopefully you can see it well. Let's see if we can see these. Look at that! Tomatoes, garden tomatoes, yummy! Anyway, I did eat one the other day. It was not fully red, but it was red enough. I was gonna have a tomato that tasted like a tomato. So I'm out here trellising my tomatoes. As you can see, they're getting pretty big along my trellis here. And this side, I haven't gotten tied up yet, but you can see on this side, notice the difference. I've got these tied up. Now today I'm using some baling twine that I'm just cutting into chunks. There's a couple methods that I like to use. If there's budget space in your budget, I like Velcro tape to do this job. You can find Velcro tape often in like Lowe's or your garden department. It can be a bit spendy. Sometimes I find it on Amazon. It is getting harder and harder to find. And so this year I opted for just using baling twine that I had kept from hay bales from feeding the cows and the mule. So I use that. If you don't have, baling twine around, string would work, or keep an eye out along the highway. Sometimes you can find lots of treasures along there, feet and feet of baling twine that sometimes get dumped that you can pick up. So it's not a budget breaker, all these little things. Anyway, so I'm coming along here and I'm just carefully tying up the branches to the trellis. I have been trying to carefully weave the tomatoes up through as they've grown, but sometimes I don't get out here and do that. And when the weather turned hot, it kind of grew a lot. Our weather has been really funky, I will say. Hot one day, 2 days maybe, then it's like cold, hot, cold. My poor garden, I don't think really knows how to react. Anyway, this is a cherry tomato. You can see it's like huge and big, and it keeps growing. It's an indeterminate variety, so which means that the vines just kind of keep going, and it will continue to set fruit all summer long. Now these, I believe, are the San Marzano. You can see they're more compact plants. They have the pear-shaped fruit in here. I'm going to be doing some canning, some paste, hopefully some salsa, because they're a meatier tomato and not as juicy, and they can up better. Hopefully make some tomato sauce with it too. Anyway, but I'm doing the same thing. I'm just kind of collecting it and tying it to the trellis, and as it grows I can weave it out. I'm also doing a little pruning while I'm at it. We know that any shoot that grows in between this kind of joint here, I kind of clip off, because it's just kind of a sucker. It doesn't set any fruit, and it takes energy away from the plant to grow leaves, and I want tomatoes. I want fruit. And so I kind of clip it off with my finger. But you can see as I go along, these are the San Marzano. I'll show you the other varieties too. So, oh, here I can show you. See this little leaf growing right here? I'm just gonna clip that off. Same with this, to prune that off so the sucker isn't taken away fruit from growing. Okay, so, oh, here's some more. We can prune those in here, get those off. This here is a Roma tomato. Roma is also a pear-shaped tomato, but it is a bigger plant than the San Marzanos. The San Marzanos are more of a heirloom variety. But I'm just doing the same thing. If you can see in here, I've got it tied up. I don't put them too tight because I don't want to strangle them and have them break off in the wind. They got to have a little bit of flex space, but they, yeah, just to kind of help them tie up and grow a bit. You can see behind me, my squash is doing nicely, growing up the chicken coop. Remember, we planted them in the pots to grow up the side and kind of provide shade for the chickens. You can see it's Lovely. My idea is working. I love it when a good plan comes together. Anyway, as we're coming along here, I was going to show you my zucchini. Remember, I was going to try something new this year. I was going to trellis my zucchini. And as you can see, I use pink twine so you can really see. You can see that I have tied it a couple times now next to the T-post, and I'm going to continue to do that as it grows up. You can see it kind of grows as one big stem through here. And so I started here attaching it, and as it grew a little bit more, I attach it. You gotta be really careful when attaching just because you don't want to snap off the vine, but they are pretty sturdy. So far so good. I have gotten so much zucchini already. I'm overrun. This plant here looks like it needs to be tied up again. See how it's kind of tipping out? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get twine, and I'm gonna wrap the twine carefully right in here, bring it around, and then tie it behind here to bring this up. This zucchini here is almost ready. I can take the blossom off. Look at that. I have quite a few female flowers right here. The female flowers are the ones that set fruit. The male ones are the pollinators. They don't set fruit, but you can kind of tell the difference. Ooh, some weeds. Anyway, behind me, the potatoes are doing fantastic. They've got blossoms on it. They're growing. These should be ready to dig in about a month or so. Look at that. Bugs are really bad this year. You can see a lot of the plants are bug-eaten. Earwigs, I've noticed, are terrible, but we're making it work. We'll just continue with a little tour today. You can see green bean patch. It's doing fantastic. And if we go down here, you can see blossoms. And look at this. Baby green bean. This one down here, even bigger. Right here. This green bean will probably be ready to eat in about 2-3 days. So I need to be keeping an eye on my green bean patch. I like my green beans small and tender. I don't like them to get big and lumpy, and then it'll be lots and lots of hours of picking to keep the patch going. But they're coming right along. You can see some zinnias growing in the back here. We'll come on over here. You can see the snapdragons. And then here is the cantaloupe that I've been trellising along here. So you can see it shoots out these little tendrils that are climbing onto the trellis. So as I come in here, I just carefully weave it in. Now the wind likes to make havoc of my weaving sometimes, but this does work pretty well. And it keeps them up off the ground. Yeah, that one's not gonna wanna stay, is it? Trying to be careful so I don't accidentally snap it off. And come in here, this one's doing pretty good weaving. I'm just gonna take this, weave it up. Ooh, there's a grasshopper, I missed it. Those things will munch and crunch your garden to bits. Like I said, there's just lots of bugs this year. Pretty nasty. I've been killing squash bugs left and right, spraying on neem oil. I'm thinking it helps. I don't know, it's so buggy this year it's hard to tell. Anyway, you can see I've woven this one, and it's got flowers on it, so it should be setting fruit here pretty soon. A few weeds in here. Gnarly things, those. I have harvested so much cilantro. Oh my goodness. I filled a gigantic cooler the other day with one cutting, and that had been my 5th cutting, I believe, of cilantro. So in order for cilantro to keep going, you have to keep it harvested. And I like to come down, see where I've clipped it? I like to come down and clip it with scissors right at a joint where they have a new sprig, so it will keep on growing. Instead of cutting it off at the base, if you do that, you've basically killed your plant. And I'd love to have cilantro all summer. Now this variety of cilantro is called Calypso. I haven't grown it before, but after research, it was one of the varieties that they recommend for hot climates. It is resistant to bolting, which is the problem I've always had with cilantro. It seems to, as soon as it gets hot, just kind of go to flower and stop producing. And I really wanted cilantro to use all summer long. So far it's done well, but you got to stay on the harvesting. And you all remember those spindly, ugly looking sweet potatoes? I thought, wow, they're never gonna look good. Look at this. Look at this lushness. These are those sweet potato slips that we planted in that raised bed I made with the bricks. You can see it's got good vining going on. Pretty soon it'll set some flowers. That means the potatoes are starting to form underneath, but these are just doing so well. You'll notice that these will root along the vine. I don't know if my camera's good enough. You can see kind of the roots going down as the vine contacts the dirt. They are doing fantastic. But you do notice too that there is definitely some bugs around here. Look at that. About everything has signs of some bug damage of some sort. Now my spring stuff is pretty much done. I noticed my lettuce that I haven't gotten eaten, usually about this time of year, it tastes really bitter, and so I let the last of it go to seed. And you can see I've let it bolt and it'll put seed heads, and once it gets it'll flower, set seed. I'll harvest those seeds so that I have them. I can either choose to plant them for a fall garden and have fall lettuce, or I can save them for next spring. Here's the beets. Beets are doing pretty well. Yep, there's bugs. It's a lot of earwigs. You can see earwigs in there. They don't seem to harm the beets too much. They kind of eat the vegetation. Usually what eats up my bulbs more is ants. Ants will chew up your carrots and beets worse than anything. And so far the ants haven't been too bad. But over here, if I can show you, the last of my lettuce, or excuse me, my radishes and spinach, I'm letting go to seed here. I don't know if you can see the seed head. So you just kind of let it bolt and go, oh my goodness, look at this. This is what I'm talking about. Look at all these earwigs. Ugh. Gnarly things. Have to do some more research on how to get rid of those. And over here you can see these are radish seed pods. So these are almost ready for me to harvest. They're gonna get a little bit more dry, and then I can get those harvested and eaten. I don't eat the seeds. I actually do eat the flowers. I do eat the flowers as they go, but I leave them for seed, then I can harvest them and put them in baggies for either fall or next spring. But every time I walk by here, it's an obligation to stop and smell the sweet peas. They're so fragrant right now. Anyway, I have been getting some peppers off. You can see they've grown quite a bit since those very diminutive little plants that we planted. These are the Anaheims. They were super tiny, but now they're pretty big. This is the sweet peppers. You can see this one's almost ready to harvest in there. Oh, this one's looking even better. Look at that. Looks like I need to harvest that today. Also, you notice behind me, my basil is doing fantastic. And the secret to getting good basil is to always take off the seed heads, the flower heads, when you come out. And it keeps that plant growing bushier and bushier. I need to make some pesto this week, obviously. But every time I come out to the garden, I always pinch my basil anytime I'm out here. And you can see these plants are just getting nice and big. By the end of the season, I'll probably have them a few feet high by a few feet wide. And it's just because I routinely pinch them and keep them harvested. I love tomato basil soup. It's like one of my favorite soups. Or caprese. Ooh, when those cherry tomatoes get ripe, yes. A little balsamic vinegar, fresh mozzarella and basil. So good. And when the wind's blowing, get that good basil smell. So keep pinching your basil. Always pinch your basil. Every time you're out here in the garden, pinch, pinch. And I do have some pepper plants. It's hard to distinguish. I had some extra pepper plants that I put in here. They kind of look like basil in the basil patch. But ugh, those earwigs are everywhere. Anyway, the flowers are doing well, the vegetables are doing well. If I can keep those darn earwigs at bay, we'll keep tempting. So I'm gonna go back to trellising some more tomatoes, and hopefully we should have a good crop. If you have any tips for me, leave the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them too. I would be happy to answer them or do some research. I love doing research on the answers for you, and we can discover new things together. So, happy gardening.